go.
That's right.
What's West Virginia do well on offense?
Well, they create matchups in space. I think they do a really, really good job of getting the ball out in the perimeter, whether it's through, tosses, quick game. They can run the ball with power, and they've got really good receivers. So we anticipate them trying to spread us out and try to get our guys in space and try to make plays that way.
How do you feel about shuffling the deck a little bit in secondary?
It's all those guys, like, the corner position, obviously, you're going to see all four of them. I'm actually excited because a lot of the time, you go into this, and I think a lot of those kids wanted to play more. Now they're going to get their opportunity to go out there, and they've practiced really well. I've been impressed with the way they're doing. It's just different because when you go out and practice now, it's usually to kind of refine or to teach them about scheme. And some of these guys are still learning some of the things with the position. So, whether it's splits, whether it is, whatever coverage we're doing. And, Jason, every day with Jason and myself is, there's some good, there's some bad, there's some in between. It's a process going as we move forward. But I've been impressed with the way that they're competing to get playing time. So excited to watch those guys play.
With BJ, back this week, he's still a young guy, so what did you guys do to kind of just make sure he was still staying up to speed, still staying engaged and stuff like he was on the side?
Yeah, well, the number one thing with most of the guys is making sure that we condition them. And then he's in all the meetings, and he's a smart guy, and we keep him up to speed through the meeting time, and then he'll get some individual. But the biggest thing when you come back from anything is just making sure you have your wind. And we've done a really good job with him, making sure that, because we're going to ask him to go out there and play quite a bit. So he'll be fine mentally. I don't worry about that part. I'll just worry about, being off for a stretch of time, whether or not he can handle all the running that he's going to have to do.
Todd, what's been your take on how Brandon's done in that nickel role the last?
It's been good. I mean, to me, I think that's a solid position for him. I think, it might be where he ends up in the NFL, to be honest with you. He's shown his ability to cover slots and some good ones. I thought he did a really good job versus, LSU in terms of covering some things. He's a physical kid that can run support. So he's been good. I mean, that's the thing about our system right now is, especially those kids, we don't give them enough credit because there's a guy that's played boundary safety, field side safety, played nickel, has played the joker position at times for us too. So, but he's done an outstanding job.
Do any of these West Virginia receivers stand out? I know they've lost a lot from last year.
Yeah, they do. I mean, there's a couple guys. The freshmen, I really like him. I think he's dynamic. He's going to be a guy that we're going to have to really, really keep an eye on. And then they've got bigger body guys that the majority of the time they're trying to get them the ball in space, and they're very, very quick. So that to me is going to be the matchup versus us. That's what we anticipate. We anticipate them spreading us out, trying to get us in space, and just trying to get the ball out to them. And then, the quarterback, I've seen him for the last 3 years. He's got something to prove. And from our standpoint, he's just in a situation when he was at Oklahoma that he just never got a chance to be the starter. But we've seen him so many times, and we know how talented he is. And it looks like to me, the first couple games it was kind of, try to figure out identity and do those things, and now they've started to pick it up. So we're catching them at a time where, they're playing really good football on offense. They've had a bye week to prepare for us. Then they got us at home. So we expect, really, really go out there and press the gas, get us in space, and try to make explosive plays. That's what we've been preparing for.
Is there anything from his Oklahoma film that's relevant to who he is today?
Sneaky fast. I've always liked him as an athlete. I didn't get enough credit for that. He doesn't do it a lot, but you'll see him on the field where when he wants to go and run with the football, and I don't know if they're asking him to run a lot, but he was always a good athlete in my opinion. He can make all the throws. I never thought that he couldn't throw the football. We've seen him do that. But I think the knock was like, okay, we got Murray, we got Baker, we got all these guys. Like, is he the athlete that? And I think, he's not Murray, but, I think he's along the lines of what Baker was, enough to beat you with his legs if he wants to.
Tom mentioned on Monday that when you guys got to look at the developmental guys last week, the Myron Warren and Beck
Yeah.
were two guys that stood out. I know David's kind of did the running back thing for a while.
Yeah.
But what sticks out to you about both those guys, Banda and Warren?
Warren, I think, can be a guy that can hold gaps for us. He's strong. He plays technical. David's a guy that's like really, really fast, and his best years are to come. So I mean those two guys, and there's a handful of other guys that they just need reps, but the talent is there. So when Yancey gets another year with them, when we get a spring football with them, we expect those guys to be major contributors for us.
With Myron, do you like where you're at in D-line wise? Because especially with the 4-game redshirt rule and
Yeah.
the veterans you got, it doesn't seem like you've got to rush guys.
We don't at all. We've come in here and we've kind of mapped out a plan of what we want to do, and David's a guy. I think David's played in 3 games right now, so we're kind of like holding it to make sure that it would be. A bomb blows up and knocks out a whole bunch of guys. So we're very mindful of like what we want to do with them. And then the guys that we've said that we're going to play, it was really, really important to us to make sure that we didn't get out of the year and like this kid played 40 plays and we burned a year for that. So we were completely committed to that. Myself and our staff and the offensive guys all sat down with Tom and we said, okay, what do we want to do? Do we want to go forward with this guy? And then some things have changed too. Like, with David, we initially played him, but we got into a game where we kicked the ball off like 7 times and literally covered like one of them.
Yeah.
It's like, so we're playing this guy 7 plays and he only covered 1 kick, or we've got him on our kickoff return team and they kick the ball out of the end zone every time. So it's like we actually put him on the field 13 times and he literally played 1 play. So we try to get smart and say, okay, listen, like, are we going to be able to get 150 reps or 200 reps for these guys by the time, we get to December? If not, then let's save this kid's year.
Well, how much is Saturday just all about, stack another good game on top of what y'all did against Rice and Oklahoma State, and just sort of keep building with weight, because this thing's now going to take off.
Yeah,
The speed of the games will take
This,
off.
yeah, this is a big moment for us because we haven't been out of the state yet. We haven't. So I mean, this is like as much as we sit here and we say like we're at Texas, we should be like very professional about this. We still got a whole bunch of young guys that this will be their first road trip. This will, this time slot's a little bit different. We're on the East Coast right now. We're
Right.
and a fan base that's like super fanatical. They'll be loud. They'll be cheering for their guys. So I mean, yeah, that's a piece of it. But I do agree with you. This is kind of the point where it's like, this thing just goes. The next thing you know, you look up, it's like
Yeah.
November 28th, and it's like,
Correct.
what just happened? So we're ready. I think Yancey McKnight and and his staff have done a great job utilizing the bye week. I think they went out of their way. I feel like our group is fresh. I feel like our group is like mentally there too. Like sometimes you can say physically you're fresh, but mentally you could be, just cluttered. I don't feel that at all. So I felt like the way that we went about it last week, and then the amount of reps that we had this week sets us up, I think, to be in a better state of mind when we do travel.
Are you happy with what you're seeing, from practice after a bye week on a Tuesday and Wednesday?
Yeah, I am. I see a lot of guys that are eager. There's a sense about it. Sometimes you come off a bye and it's like you've already prepped for them, you're doing it again. It's kind of like when you go into a bowl prep. It's like guys come out and, oh, here we go again and do that. I don't get that sense at all. And I think it's a credit to Herm too, because, he is he's reduced some of the practices a little bit because of our ability to do some stuff last week and prep that way. And I just feel like mentally we're in a good place right now. So I don't feel like sometimes you get a little bit stale when you just keep doing the same thing over and over again.
Coach, what was the light bulb moment for Keandre Coburn this season? Because as mentioned, past 2 games he's been graded out as a champ.
Yeah, I think he's had a really good fall camp, and he's played well. It's just the consistency. I think he can be a superstar, to be honest with you. I really do. It's just sometimes what ends up happening is we're all kind of guilty of this. We see, like, we want to say finished product, and he's just a puppy in his first time doing it. So when You know, I think from our standpoint, it's always been, man, I wish he would have done this, you know, stay lower, stay square, do what we're asking you to do, get lined up, and then he started to do that. And that's all it's going to be with him is just repetition. The more reps that he gets, the better off, because he's a super talented kid.
And then his old coach, Coach Blum,
Yeah.
he mentioned that he was a quick learner back in the day, but it's because he had such a blank slate. Is that what you've been kind of working with?
Say that again?
Like
What, AJ?
he's been described as like a blank slate.
Yeah, well, I think the blank slate's really, really strong, though. I can tell you that. So I mean, and he's really, really quick and fast. He doesn't get credit for that. He's like 335, 340, and he can run. So I think that talent itself, and I think with Oscar and like AJ was talking about beforehand, just to get the fundamentals and techniques. And remember, he is a freshman playing nose guard. You know, it's like, you know, sometimes you just don't even process that part. And when we were at Houston as a staff, it was the same thing with like Ed Oliver. It's like, you know, Ed was like a freak show, but you know, this kid's not Ed, but you know, we can see this kid later on down in his career being very, very special. So we just got to be a little bit patient with him, but he's doing a really good job.
Todd, it's kind of a big picture through the first 4 games. What do you feel like your group can hang their hat on, and where do you want to see improvement?
Well, I think the hang your hat on is I think we've been decent in the run game. You know, that's the one thing that I think our front seven have taken a lot of pride in, and our back end too, because they're a part of it. And then the things that I want to see us get better at is just finishing plays in the back end, and then really, really third down. That's the one that, you know, I'm scratching and clawing every day to try to piece this thing together, because we had some of the same issues last year, but these right now are becoming just execution deals. Sometimes last year it was, you know, get lined up, get the right coverage, but now it's becoming like, okay, listen, let's stay on our guys' good fundamentals and technique, and let's finish plays. So the number one thing I want to see us do is just finish plays in the back end. When that ball goes up, I want to be on the sidelines going like, hey, you know what? There's an 80% chance of us coming down with this football. That's how I want to feel on the sidelines.
Speaking of that run defense, Malcolm yesterday said he wasn't really buying that West Virginia has the last ranked rushing attack in the conference. What have you seen from them, and what do you think they do well with the run game?
I just think they're dynamic. They'll stretch you out sideline to sideline. The quarterback is a threat, and they'll slam the ball at you. So, you know, what Malk's saying is like, if you take a look at the amount of plays and you start, you know, but the different schemes that they have in terms of getting the ball on the perimeter, I think that's what they're really, really good at. So we're going to have to do a good job in run support on the outside, and then they will come at you up inside too. So, but our kids, they understand that if you turn around, I think there's a good example of, you know, the K-State Oklahoma State game where it's like, you know, Hubbard goes for almost 300 yards, and you know, you're going to win a whole bunch of games if if you're Oklahoma State rushing for 300 yards. So I think our kids have that mentality, and I don't think there's anybody in this league that doesn't have a good scheme, doesn't have good players. So every week you come into this, if you drop your guard, you're going to get hit pretty hard. So they're going to stretch us out in the perimeter. That's my own personal opinion, and try to beat us there.
Got time for 2 last ones? Coach, with a lot of things, you know, shifting around in the back end,
Yeah.
do you feel that the D-line has been kind of like a stabilizing factor for you?
It has. It really has. I think they played really well and consistent. And like I said beforehand, there's some veteran presence there, guys that have been through battles. And unfortunately, you know, some of the guys in the back end that, you know, we would expect to really help us have been hurt. So you got guys out in that field that everything is the first time for them. You know, Malcolm Roach has seen everything. Taquan Grant has seen everything. Keandre's a little bit different, but, you know, because he plays that position. But when you have experience, you can figure things out. You get into the back end, you don't have a lot of experience. Every day is a learning curve. So, but those guys, in my opinion, I've told Oscar this many a times, they've really, really helped us, especially Malcolm. Malcolm's just, you know, he shows up, he's consistent every week, and he can cover up some things, some deficiencies that we have. So the ball, you know, whether it's pressuring a quarterback or whether it's stopping a run, doing something elite, he's really helped us.
I know this is unfair to ask for this comparison, but is there any Ed Oliver and Keandre?
The power part is. Ed's a lot twitchier, you know, but they're different dudes. Ed wasn't like 345. Ed couldn't function. When Ed was his age, he was like 270, 275. But Ed was like a bigger body linebacker. He had like linebacker skills. They're different because of that. Ed was a lot twitchier and could move like a backer, but their power, the way that they strike people is very similar. They both can like really, really get after people and push the line of scrimmage back.
From a defensive perspective, what is challenges does West Virginia present?
I think the biggest challenge for our guys is just going to be, this is a new West Virginia team, right? So no carryover from last year. You can't look at last year's game, try to figure out how they're going to play you, or how to take advantage of them. It's going to be one of those things. They've had a bye week. I'm sure there's going to be changes and things that they do and new stuff. So, there's going to be a little bit of a feeling out process. We've got to be patient. And, we're going to have to, do what we do, which is take care of the football and play really hard and execute and just worry about us and do what we need to do to win the game and execute at a high level.
To that extent, if they do come out in the front or something that you guys haven't seen, do you feel like you guys are at the point as an offense where whatever you call for the first 10 or so plays, if you guys just execute and do what you do, that it doesn't matter what they're in?
Yeah, for the most part we do. I think that, my job and one of the things, we've been able to do is to get, Sam to have a good understanding of our offense, right? So he knows the strengths of plays, the weaknesses of plays. He knows, and we continue to teach him about defense, right? So the beautiful thing about him, the smarts that he has, he's able to at least keep us out of bad plays and try to get us in, minimal risk plays at times if something like that were to occur. He won't be fazed by it, and he'll be able to execute and to get us into good situations to allow us to have a chance to have success.
I know you guys like to spread it around and give every position a certain number of plays, but when you got a guy like Duvernay, how do you want to spread it around, but he's hot. How do you feed that?
Well, honestly, I've been in programs before that you worry about that too much, and it gets you, because all you're worried about is this guy hasn't touched the ball and this guy hasn't touched the ball. The greatest success in my 30 years of experience is just run the offense. He's going to get his touches. They're all going to get their touches when you just do that, and it's quarterback's job to distribute the football on time and to the open guy based on, coverage and scheme. So Sam's done a good job of doing that, and guys have been able to execute.
Why do you because Devin's mentioned this, he mentioned this a few weeks ago, and he touched on it again Tuesday. He talks about how the offense is age-friendly.
Yeah.
What are you telling recruits, slot guys?
Well,
what you like about the age?
It can be. I mean, it's definitely an age-friendly offense, meaning that's your matchups, right? You either have a walkout linebacker guarding you, you have a nickel back potentially, which, some nickel backs are your third corner, right? Because he's not good enough to be the one or the two.
Correct.
So, or it's a safety, and there's it's a reason they're a safety and not a corner. So you got some matchup issues when that happens, right? So that's, I think, where he alludes to, hey, this is an age-friendly offense. I think that's been a big part of what we do.
Last year on fourth down conversion, y'all were second in the country in percentage behind Army. This year hasn't been as successful during the bye week. Did y'all kind of take a look at your fourth or your short yardage plays, kind of reassess what may be going right and what may be going wrong?
Not really. To be honest, we try not. It's hard. You don't want to put too much emphasis on those things. I feel like our third down's been pretty good. I think we're pretty good there. Obviously, we'd like to be better on fourth down. It's just we haven't executed as well in that situation as we would have liked, but I don't necessarily believe that there's anything technically different we probably could have done. We didn't do a really good job maybe all the way through, executing.
As Sam is obviously continuing to progress this year, are you noticing that defenses are trying to take away one particular aspect of his game, whether they're trying to force him to run or the pass? how are they trying to key in on him?
I don't know. I haven't studied other teams and their tendencies according to Sam by each game. I don't believe there's been any game we've got in going, hey, they're making Sam do this. I think they're trying to keep him in the pocket as much as they can, but I think they're finding out they're not having a lot of success doing that. So I don't know.
Why do you think that this season, whenever y'all go into a 5-wide empty passing game, that's been more successful this year than it may have been in years past?
A lot of weapons. You know, you got Keontae and Roshan, and you had Jay Witt at running back. That all of a sudden they're true viable threats that you got to cover. You know, Brennan Eagles is having a really nice start of the season. You still got Colin or Malcolm, you know, and then you got Devin. Like, where do you put the emphasis on, right? And so we've shown the ability that when teams try to blitz us, we have answers to that, and we've hurt them with big plays. So now it's, you know, it eliminates looks for the quarterback and the offensive line, and it allows those guys to run around and try and get open, and they've done a good job of doing that.
Tim, Tom was talking Monday about some of the guys that stood out, the developmental guys that stood out during the bye week. A couple guys I want to get your take on, the two young tight ends, Librock and Wiley, and then Tyler Johnson. I know Tom said he's improved a lot since the spring.
No doubt. I mean, I really like that young group. I think that group that came in is very talented. Obviously, when you get into the season and you're prepping and you're getting your first and second string guys ready for a ball game, sometimes that gets overlooked. But I know we've been repping those guys some in the bye week, and even on Sundays getting a little scrimmage time. So I think those guys have done a great job. I like both those tight ends. I think Tyler's gotten tremendously better. I like what Reese Moore. I know he had a setback injury-wise, but Reese was doing some really good things for us. But he's back now, so he's moving along, coming along. So I like what all those guys can do.
Coming out of both Louisiana Tech and Rice, I think you guys felt that those defenses did either things that they didn't show on tape or what you weren't expecting, and it was a credit to the offensive line for how well they adjusted on the fly.
Right.
And my question is that it's hard to quantify that, how well a line can adjust, but just how well are they doing it?
Well, I think twofold. I think La Tech was a little different. It was more. I don't want to say it's more coverage and blitz at La Tech was. Rice was every play. So
Something different.
Yeah, and it wasn't necessarily we didn't expect that. It was just we never knew what was coming in every play. The things they did and they ran in the game for the most part, you know, it wasn't like, hey, wow, that you know, we never saw that. That's kind of weird. We just expected everything from them.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing that in this game, in the college football game, more and more. You're starting to see teams now. They play defense by confusion.
Just to see if they can catch you napping, so to speak.
Yeah, that or you know, let's create a negative yardage play to make the offense have to overcome. So what they do is they take some chances or play. Maybe it's even an unsound look, or. You know, I heard a coach say one time, you got guys that they're so worried about making plays, they're not playing defense, right, defensively, right? So I'm not saying necessarily West Virginia. I think I heard it. I can't remember where I heard it, but, like, they're watching the ball and chasing the ball. I know the guy's supposed to be a A-gap player or whatever, and he's not. And so then the ball hits in the A-gap, nobody's there. So, I mean, you see more and more of that happening college football-wise instead of you put on the tape and say, oh, look, these guys are a, you know, 4-down cover 4 team. Like, you don't see that anymore. That's rare to see.
Tim, what's that like for you as a coordinator, though, in terms of if a defense is looking at you and said, okay, when they're in 10 personnel, they're going to do these 3 things. How much of that for you is trying to, you know, show things that can break tendency or something like that?
We do, but you don't even see that anymore. Like, you could look up and say, okay, in 10 personnel they're going to do, and you look, and it's, you know, you look at 35 clips and 30 of them are something different. Every single snap is a different alignment, a different coverage, a different pressure, a different, you know, it's something every snap. And so our goal is to try to decipher, you know, philosophically, what are they? Are they a pressure team? They're not a pressure team. Are they a zone team? Are they a man team? Are they going to try to be in 4 down or 3 down? Like, so we kind of look at them and say philosophically, here's what they are. Here's all the things they can do out of it, and we just throw it at our guys. And as hard as I make Tuesdays as hard as it can be in practice for quarterbacks especially.
To that point about breaking down opposing defenses by deciphering them, so how helpful is it to be an 11 personnel for you guys, because you guys use it so much, and be able to vary you guys?
It just doesn't, because they still do everything.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't matter. Some teams may have, for example, a couple different things. They may change personnel because you're in 10, or change personnel because you're in 12, or there might be this blitz is only versus 12 personnel because you don't have guys that can release. They don't have to worry about covering them. But in 11, you get it all. You get everything. I mean,
Sorry.
That's what I'm curious about, though. Like, all these different looks. How good is Sam or the receivers or the line at being able to come off and tell you guys, here's what we see they're doing, and that jives with what y'all say?
yeah, it's a combination. Yeah, they do. They come in. It's what we talk about Sam. Like, I mean, it happened last game. We ran a play. He read something, and he ended up scrambling for a couple of yards.
Mm-hmm.
He came off the side and said, hey, man, they're not doing what we thought.
Right.
The Joker guy's playing. He did this. Next time, look to the field and hit Brandon Eagles for a big play. Like, but sometimes it takes that, right? He identified what defense it was. He kind of knew, but the base rule of that particular defender, he didn't do his base rule. He did something else. So he kind of got Sam, right? So when Sam comes off, I get him on the headset. Here's what happened.
Right.
Did you identify the defense? Yeah, coach, I saw it was, whatever, star defense, okay? What did the star guy do? He did that. No, this is what he did. So you have to do this now. Okay, got you, coach. So that's all the stuff that happens through a course of the conversation of the game. And the same thing happens with the O-line. They'll come off, talk to Herb.
Right.
Well, I called this an odd front because this guy was here, and that, no, we need to call that an even front. Here's why, da-da-da-da. And you talk through all that.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we straighten them all out and usually make those adjustments as the game goes on through that time. So most things, honestly, most things fall into certain categories. It's an even front, it's an odd front, or it's a bare front. Most teams follow into that, and there's rules with that, right? Most coverage is a 2 high or 1 high coverage, whether it's zone or man. Most of it falls into that. But there's really unique ways people play some of that stuff. And combinations of it.
From a big picture standpoint, what do you feel are elements of this offense that you and the staff can count on being there for you every week, and what are you still waiting to kind of see that consistency out of?
I think right now we're all very pleased at our confidence level. I think our guys, regardless of what takes place through the course of the game or a series or a drive, they don't lose faith, they don't doubt. I think they believe they're a good offensive football team, and so they almost blame themselves when they don't score. They come off and, hey, we'll fix this. It was, I blocked the wrong guy, threw to the wrong guy, ran the wrong route, whatever it was, and we'll fix that, coach, and be good. That part's been really impressive to see the resiliency of our guys and just how they attack the game right now. As far as weakness, like we said, it's just continually being consistent. Communication's really important right now because of all the variety of looks. What did you call this? Did you call it an odd front? Well, that changes the quarterback. Might be on his protection rules, and all that type of stuff. It all has to tie together. So there's so many unique looks. The communication element's really important.